Hey fam, welcome to episode 1 of Woo with Proof. I'm your host, Lindsay Smith. It sounds weird to say still because I just got married 2 months ago and I'm still getting used to calling myself a Smith versus a Rose, but we'll get there. So I wanted to start off today's episode being the first one, which I think was probably the most helpful thing in my life when it came to manifestation. And I wish someone had made this for me during my hard season of life. So we're going to talk about manifestation when life is hard AF. I've had actually multiple people reach out to me about this recently. So I thought it would be just a great segue to get started with. And, I'm not talking about like when life is hard, like, oh, things are not moving as fast as I want. I'm talking about what we do when we're moving through things like grief, like financial collapse, really big health issues, a huge ending of a relationship, a loss of a job, right? The kind of hard where getting out of bed literally feels like a spiritual act in and of itself. So what happens usually in those seasons is like we turn to those practices that we know. We script until our hands get cramps. We're visualizing for hours a day. We're doing our affirmations. We're journaling. We're doing all the things. And sometimes it's like nothing actually moves, or in fact, it actually ends up getting worse, which that's a whole nother episode I can do, but that's what I call the quantum crumble. When we're trying to move in the direction of something and literally life is falling apart underneath our feet. But I'll save that for another time. And then, the cruelest part starts to happen. We internalize it. We wonder if we are the problem. Maybe my vibration is off. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I'm attracting this. Maybe I'm just not believing well enough, or whatever it is. We just like make up all of these reasons to convince ourselves that we're the problem. So I want to offer you a completely different framework and perspective today, because I do believe energy is real. I do believe we're co-creating with the universe at all times. And I also believe that when life gets really hard, there's a specific reason our manifestation slows down or even stalls, and it has nothing to do with whether or not you're worthy of it or doing it right. So before we get into the why, I want to say something about the hard season specifically itself, because this is the piece that changed everything for me when I really understood this. In the manifestation world, contrast gets a bad rap. And contrast is what we call the stuff that we don't want, right? The lack, the pain, the things that are going sideways in our life. And there's this idea that if you're experiencing a lot of quote unquote contrast, you must be doing something wrong. You're misaligned. You need to fix your thoughts. You need to be more positive. But here's what I actually believe. Contrast is one of the most powerful tools in the freaking universe, because it is showing you what you don't want. Contrast is how you actually get clear. The friction, the pain, it's information. It's your soul saying, nope, not this, something else, literally. So the hard season isn't punishment, you guys. It's not evidence that you're broken or something's wrong with you. It's the universe holding up a mirror to you and asking you, what do you actually want? So there's this concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth. And it's one of the most fascinating bodies of research that I've literally ever come across. Psychologists, and their names are Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun. They coined this term in the 1980s after spending years interviewing people who had been through genuinely really devastating experiences like serious illnesses, traumatic losses in their life-altering injuries. And what they found actually even surprised them, right? A significant number of people didn't just recover from these experiences, they actually grew in exponential ways. And they actually had new possibilities open up for them in life. They had a greater appreciation for being alive. They had a stronger sense of personal self. And they had a new perspective on spiritual and existential questions. They describe one paradox that trauma survivors often articulate. They feel more vulnerable, yet stronger. So the suffering actually cracked something open within them. And through that crack came a version of themselves that they couldn't have become in any other way. So this isn't about silver linings or toxic positivity. It's about genuine alchemical potential of hard seasons. So that contrast, it doesn't just show you what you want, it builds the person who is capable of having it. And I talk a lot about this in my content. We don't want to manifest unless we're capable of holding it. And this is where I really feel like it begins. So the first thing that I want you to take in today is to not resist the contrast. Because we know, and we've all heard, that what you resist persists. The more you fight the hard thing, the more energy you give it, and the more entangled with it you become. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel. Feeling it is not the same thing as being stuck in it. Feeling it is the way that we process it and move it through our body. So when life gets truly hard, most of us do something that is very human of us, right? We fragment. We split ourselves. Part of us is dealing with the practical crisis in front of us. And then there's another part of us that's trying to stay positive. There's also a part of us that's catastrophizing. While there's a part of us that is performing that we're fine to everybody else in the world. And there's also a part of us that's freaking exhausted and done with all of it. So we're scattered. And you can't send a coherent signal into the universe from a scattered place. If you think about this energetically, if you're trying to broadcast on 10 different frequencies all at once, that transmission is a literal mess. The universe is not receiving a clear ask from you. It's receiving static. That's a survival response. When the threat is real and the stakes are high, we mobilize every part of ourselves to handle it. And it's actually brilliant. It's really intelligent. But it does mean that manifestation, which requires a kind of coherence and a centered knowing, becomes genuinely harder. It's not impossible, but it does become harder. The path back is not to force yourself into positivity over the fragments. It's to come home to yourself. It's to gather these pieces. And that actually starts with the body. So this is where science really gave me the biggest permission slip of my life, because when I understood what stress actually does to the body and the brain, I stopped blaming myself for not being able to shift my energy during the seasons of my life that were really hard. And so I want to give you that same permission. Here's the thing. I fully believe that our energy, our frequency, and our intention moves out into the universe and shapes what comes back to us. What is interesting to me is the question, what happens to that signal when your nervous system is in full-on survival mode? When you're going through something really hard, like chronic stress, grief, like we talked about, financial fear, pain, your body releases elevated levels of cortisol, which is the primary stress hormone, as we know. And research has shown that when cortisol stays high over time, it physically narrows your sensory perception and increases your brain's threat detection activity. So neuroimaging studies have actually shown that stress ramps up activity in the amygdala, which is that alarm system part of your brain. And it actively shifts your attention towards anything that is signaling danger. So think about what that means for manifestation, right? You're literally biologically primed to see more of what's wrong than more of what's right. You are primed to see what's threatening, what could go wrong. And it's not because the universe is conspiring against you. It's because your nervous system is doing its job, which is to keep you alive. Now, there's also a structure in your brainstem called the reticular activating system, also known as the RAS, and its job is to filter reality. So your senses take in approximately 11 bits of information every single second, but your conscious mind is only processing about 40 to 50 bits per second. So your brain is constantly deciding what gets through. What do you actually get to experience? And the answer is what you're primed for, what you're tuned to. The RAS lets through what matches your current emotional frequency. Now, I believe that the RAS is one of the biggest physical bridges between our inner frequency and our outer experiences. It's one visible layer of how what we hold inside shapes what we perceive on the outside. Now, a lot of spiritual teachings say that what you seek seeks you. What you tune into tunes into you. And the RAS gives us one measurable glimpse into how that actually works within our body. And when chronic stress takes you over, your RAS is tuned to threat. The synchronicities the universe is sending, the doors that are opening, the right people appearing, the unexpected opportunities, they might be right in front of you, but your filter is set to danger, not possibility, because it's in survival mode. So you're not manifesting from a broken place. You're manifesting from a survival place. And the very first order of business here is not to override that with positive thinking. It's to help your nervous system understand that it's safe. It's to regulate first, because you're not accessing that co-creation from fight or flight. You have to clear your channel first. So here's where the research gets really practical, because there are specific evidence-backed tools that help us shift the nervous system out of survival mode, and they work really fast. Now, there was a study that compared different breathwork techniques against mindfulness meditation, and the winner here was something called cyclic psychological sighing, which is honestly just a fancy name for something your body actually already does naturally when you cry or when you've been holding your breath. You take a normal inhale, and then you squeeze in a tiny inhale at the top, right? And you've probably already done this before in some yoga practices. And then you exhale slowly and completely. So it's like a little bit more, and then an exhale. So the study found that in 5 minutes of doing this daily, produced greater reductions in anxiety and negative emotion than any other technique that they tested, including meditation, which is wild to me. I really have experienced the biggest breakthroughs in my life using breath work. So what science is telling us here is that a longer exhale, then inhale, activates the vagus nerve, which is the main highway of your parasympathetic nervous system. It's your rest and repair system. It's the one that tells your brain, okay, this threat is not real. You're safe, you can open. Now, other things that genuinely work when you're dysregulated, and I want to offer these as not as prescriptions, but as invitations to you, okay? Number one being movement. Not punishing yourself at the gym, but moving your body in a way that feels like you really care about it. That can be a walk. It could be stretching. It could be dancing in your kitchen while you're making dinner. Movement processes the stress hormone physically. It literally moves them through your body. And number two, co-regulation. And I can't stress this enough, you guys. Be with people who make you feel safe. This is a real neurological phenomenon. When you are with someone whose nervous system is regulated, yours begins to mirror it. You borrow their calm. This is why certain people leave us feeling grounded and certain people leave us feeling more frantic. So seek out the people who ground you. And then number three, small acts of agency. When life feels chaotic and out of control, tiny actions that you complete actually matter neurologically. So things like making your bed, cooking a meal, sending an email you've been avoiding. These things actually rebuild that felt sense that you are participating in your own life, not just receiving whatever is happening to you. And number four, sensory anchors. Things that remind your body it's here, now, alive, not just a story in your head. So things like a hot shower, or even smelling something that you love, or a piece of music that you enjoy. These actually aren't distractions, they are regulation tools. Now, none of this is instead of the spiritual work. This is the spiritual work. You are tending to your instrument, your body. You're clearing your channel. You're making yourself available to what the universe is already sending to you, you guys. So here's something that I hold on to in the darkest parts of hard seasons. This is a truth. It's like a truth of life that I've seen and I've witnessed and experienced multiple times in my own life and also in working with people, that energetically, what goes down must come up. This is a universal law, you guys. Darkness always precedes the dawn. Winter always turns to spring, and the pendulum always swings. Now, we talk a lot in the manifestation space about staying in high vibrational states. And yes, I get it. But I also think there is a maturity in understanding that the low isn't permanent, it's cyclical. And the depth of the low often corresponds to the height of what's coming. Now, really feel that. I'm not saying your pain is a transaction. Like if you suffer long enough, then you'll earn the good stuff. That's not what I mean. I mean, energy moves in cycles. And when you're in the dark part of your cycle, you are still in the cycle. You haven't fallen off your path. You're on it. Some of the most profound redirections in my life came out of things that I thought were devastations, right? I think I've talked to you guys about the guy that I was with many years ago that he ended up cheating on me, taught me a lot about myself. I lost so much of myself in that relationship, but I also found so much more of who I actually am. So that relationship ending actually made space for everything that I actually wanted. And in hindsight, and I know this is annoying to hear when you're in it, but the contrast was serving me. So when it gets hard, can you hold even a small amount of curiosity alongside the pain? This is not forced positivity. It's a quiet, I wonder what this is making space for in my life. And that question alone is a frequency shift. So now I want to talk a little bit about gratitude. And I want to do it carefully because I know how hollow it can sound when someone tells you, be grateful while you're in the middle of genuinely feeling like shit. So let me be specific about what I mean and what the research actually shows here. I'm not asking you to be grateful for the shit that you're going through. I'm asking you to find what you can genuinely feel grateful for right now in the midst of it. And there's a reason that this isn't just lovely advice I'm giving. It's actually neurologically transformative. So neuroscience research using MRI brain imaging shows that when we experience genuine gratitude, two specific regions of our brain light up. The ventral striatum, which is your brain's reward center, and the medial prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision-making and value assessment. These are the same regions that activate in response to food, connection, and other experiences that your brain categorizes as deeply feeling good to you. What makes this especially relevant to hard seasons is that gratitude triggers the release of both dopamine and serotonin, the same two neurotransmitters targeted by antidepressant medications. Another study done shows that the mere act of searching for something to be grateful for, even before you find it, is enough to stimulate serotonin production. The looking itself actually changes your brain chemistry. People who keep gratitude practices literally show altered neural activity in the medial prefrontal cortex that persists months later. So this isn't temporary mood lifting. It's actually structural change in your brain. And there's a theory that connects this in a powerful way. C.R. Snyder, his research found that hope, which is defined as the felt belief that pathways exist and that you have the capacity to move through them, was the strongest predicator of well-being and success, more so than intelligence or skill. So gratitude and hope basically reinforce each other. When you're anchored into what is genuinely good in your life right now, even something small, you're building the neural architecture of hope. You're training your brain to perceive possibility alongside pain. So in a hard season, I don't ask my clients to write 10 things that they're grateful for if it feels forced and hollow to them. I instead invite them to find one thing, literally one thing that you can genuinely feel in your body, whether it be the warmth of the sun, your dog. Y'all know my dog is my anchor, or a friendship, a meal that tasted good to you. just something that's real, and feel it fully. Let it really land in your body. And again, this is not a replacement for the hard thing you're going through. It's happening alongside it. That is the signal. That's you broadcasting to the universe. There's still beauty here. I can still receive. I'm still open, right? Now, one of the most powerful things I've ever learned, and it shows up both in spirituality and psychology, is that it's never the event itself that determines your experience. It's the meaning that you assign to it. The same job loss can mean I'm a failure, or it can mean I'm being redirected. The relationship ending can mean I'm unlovable, or it can mean I'm being prepared. That health crisis you're in, it can mean my body is betraying me, or it can mean my body is asking me for something. Now, I'm not saying to fake things here. I'm not saying to bypass the grief or the fear or the anger that you feel. Those feelings are very real and they deserve to be felt. But what I am saying is that at some point on your own timeline, there's a choice available to you. And that choice is one of the most energetically powerful things that you can do. And this is backed by one of the most profound bodies of psychology work that exists. If you guys have ever heard of Viktor Frankl, he was an Austrian psychiatrist who survived multiple Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. He lost nearly his entire family. And out of that experience, he developed what he called logotherapy. It's the idea that the primary human drive is not pleasure or power, but it's meaning. And his key insight is that everything can be taken from a person but one thing. The last of human freedoms, which is to choose your attitude in any given situation. Modern research has validated this in a very measurable way. Studies show that people who are able to construct meaning from adversity, people who can find purpose or a new narrative within whatever is happening to them, demonstrate significantly better psychological outcomes than those who can't. There's a lot of research on meaning making and physical health that's found that people with a strong sense of life meaning were protected against chronic disease, cognitive decline, and even premature mortality. So meaning making literally changes your stress biology, you guys. So again, in hard seasons, the question that I sit with, and I invite you to sit with, is not, why is this happening to me? The question is, what meaning am I choosing to give this? What is this asking of me, right? What is this making me? What am I learning in this situation? What am I learning about who I actually am? This is co-creation, right? You're taking the raw material the universe has offered and you're deciding what to build with it. That's being empowered. Okay, and this is the last piece. And I honestly think one of the most countercultural things I'm going to say today, because it runs directly against most of what manifestation spaces teach. I don't want you to positive think your way out of it. And here's what I mean. A lot of us have learned, consciously or not, to use positive thinking as a way to bypass things, to slap like a high vibe on top of a feeling that we haven't actually processed, to get through the hard thing as fast as possible and to get back to feeling good, right? We do this all the time. And I understand why, because I actually do it myself. The hard feelings feel counterproductive. They feel low vibe. They feel like the opposite of what we're trying to create. But your capacity to hold joy, abundance, love, expansion, all of that, it's directly proportional to your capacity to hold darkness, grief, fear, and uncertainty without collapsing. Staying with the hard thing without abandoning yourself, without numbing out, without bypassing it, it builds something in you. It expands your container, right? People who grow through hard experiences, they don't avoid the pain. They process it. They sit in the discomfort. They let it change their cognitive framework rather than defending against it. People who experience this post-traumatic growth that we talked about, they're not resilient in the sense of bouncing back to who they are. They grow into someone that they couldn't have become without it, right? So in a hard season, instead of asking yourself, how can I get back to feeling good? I want you to try asking, how do I stay with myself while I feel this? What does it look like to be in the hard thing and still be kind to yourself? Still meet your basic needs? Still take one small action? Still look for one true thing to be grateful for? This is the practice. It's not transcending the hard thing, but it's being with it in grace, being in it with yourself. And what happens when you do that is you expand. Everything grows. Your capacity for joy, your capacity for love, for abundance, for all the good shit that's coming your way. It's because your container got bigger. Because you proved to yourself that you can hold more than you thought you could. So just to recap the journey that we just took. Number 1, contrast as a gift. Remembering fragmentation in your nervous system to regulate first. What goes down comes back up. Use gratitude as an anchor. And everything has meaning based on what you choose. And then hold yourself through it, right? So the core truth, you're not failing at manifestation when life is hard. You're a human navigating a hard season with a nervous system that's doing exactly what it's designed to do. The universe hasn't stopped working. You are still in co-creation. You are still on your path. The invitation is just to tend to yourself first, to regulate yourself, to come back to your body. Choose a meaning that doesn't make you wrong, and hold yourself with the same gentleness that you would offer someone that you deeply love. When you do that, you come back online. You'll find the universe has been right there with you all along, sending you the signs, opening the doors, bringing the people. You just needed to be clear enough so the interference didn't block you. So here's a reflection question I'm going to leave you with for the week. Where am I trying to positive think my way over something that actually needs to be felt? And what would it look like to stay in it with myself with kindness instead? So thank you guys so much for being a part of my first episode. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. I hope it brought you some clarity and some peace and some ease as you might be navigating a hard season right now yourself. So I'm excited for the next episode. What we're going to be diving into is a topic that I often think about, and that is, can collective beliefs override our manifestation? So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please come back for episode number 2. And if you love this episode, please share this, leave a review if you like this, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Have a good one. Bye.